the Three Inning Fan Show with me, Kelley Franco. I am so excited about my guest here today because I have with me Bob Nightengale, MLB writer for USA Today, past president of the Baseball Writers Association of America, and let's face it, just generally our go-to guy for MLB news. Bob, thank you so much for being here today.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you, Kelley.
So, Bob, I thought we'd start off talking about the Dodgers because the Dodgers always have stuff going on. But actually, their owner right now, Mark Walter, has some stuff going on with the Lakers. He used to own both the Dodgers and the Lakers, but now he only owns one of those teams. Tell us about it.
Yeah, kind of a shock. He just bought the team last October for $10 billion, which is a record. And then in a matter of 72 hours, flipped the team for $12.5 billion for Kushner and Bob Iger. And, he says it's not related to investigation, but, I think he needs some money. He's not going to sell the Dodgers. We'll see about the other sports. He owns the Professional Women's Hockey League as well, owns the soccer league team, a race car event as well. So we'll see. But, yeah, he insists that it won't affect the Dodgers. And I can see why not. I mean, why? Because they're making so much money. So why walk away from that kind of investment?
Sure. I mean, making $2.5 billion between October and now is not too shabby. And of course, it's what I'm paying you to appear on this podcast today. Checks in the mail. But it does seem like there are some rumors that the Lakers' sale might relate to the government's investigation of whether Walter's insurance companies may have lent money to businesses that Walter controlled, and these weren't necessarily disclosed as third-party transactions. Is that what you're hearing on the ground?
It's certainly very fishy. I mean, just the fact that you sell the Lakers that quickly, and also that you do it in 72 hours. So they heard that he needed some money. Boom, now he's got his money. But yeah, it's hard to think that it's not related to the investigation. And we'll see what happens. Maybe it just all goes away now. We'll see. But that's a rumor now in the streets, is that all of a sudden now the investigation will go away and then everything will be back to normal.
Because if he netted 2.5 billion, it seems like, just from what I've read about the investigation, that wouldn't be enough to pay off the loans that allegedly weren't properly disclosed as related party transactions. So you have to wonder if there would be any repercussions for the Dodgers.
Yeah, they insist no, and it's such a money-making machine. I don't think he's going to walk away from that. They made over $1 billion last year. So you're not going to, just walk away and give that up. So I could see the other things like the Women's Hockey League and different things if he needs some more money, which he may. You try to get more, try to get bailed out too by Steve Cohen. And I don't think Cohen's group wanted a part of it. So that they said no.
You're talking about Point 72 Asset Management, Steve Cohen's business besides the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. That was the stories over the weekend. They reached out to them, and once they said no, I think that's why you turn around and say, you know what, you can have the Lakers. Now you got $12.5 billion, bucks back into the investment group. Remember, a lot of this wasn't Mark Walter's money, even when they bought that. Dodgers back in 2012 out of a bankruptcy court, that was Guggenheim's 2.15. I think Mark Walter put in $100 million himself.
Well, the Dodgers certainly are not only a money-making machine, but they know how to run a baseball team. They are incredibly profitable. And they're looking pretty good this year. They're going for their three-peat. Let's talk about them. They made a huge splash at the trade deadline in acquiring Tarek Skubal.
Yeah, I mean, he was the best player out there, and they went and got him. I think they're a little more nervous about Shohei Ohtani returning to the mound. Blake Snell just got back. We'll see, how long he lasts. So there were some questions. And I think the three-peat means a lot to them. They'd be the first team to do it in the National League. That hasn't been done by anybody since the Yankees, and Yankees have done it a few times, back in the 96 to 2001. So I think, talking to Dave Roberts about a week ago, he says, you win three in a row, all of a sudden you're being compared, to teams like the 27 Yankees, that sort of thing.
What are you hearing on the ground about Shohei Ohtani and whether he'll pitch again this season?
I think he will. He's throwing on the side right now. I think he'll start up bullpen sessions. I also think there's a pride factor as far as winning the most valuable player award. I think if he returns to the mound, he's going to win the award. If he doesn't return, I think it's very possible he loses that out to Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs. But if he goes back to the mound and pitches in a few games, that could be the separator.
If the Dodgers have a rotation that includes Otani, Snell, Yamamoto, that's a pretty good looking rotation for October. Is there a team that can beat them?
I think a team like the Philadelphia Phillies would have a chance. They have a lot of star power, and most of all, they have three great starters in the Christopher Sanchez, who was all-star starter, Zach Wheeler, Jesus Luzardo, and the fourth guy, Aaron Nola, who pitched very well in their Field of Dreams game. So that's a team I think capable of knocking them off. I'm not sure about Milwaukee. They do have Mizorowski stops there, Chris Hill for Atlanta. But I think as far as just an overall team, Philadelphia might give them the biggest test.
And they had a nice trade deadline acquisition with Luis Ariz. Well, I mean, I think it was nice. He's oddly kind of a polarizing player. What did you think about that?
I love the trade. Heard about that morning, and three-time batting champion, and I think they needed that. I remember talking to Bryce Harper in Philadelphia a couple of weeks before that. He says we need somebody that's different than us. We're all sluggers, but we strike out a lot. Well, Ariz is the opposite of that. He's not a slugger. He doesn't strike out. And they got him batting cleanup, just like they get on base and he'll drive him in. So it's an unusual spot for him. He's usually batting in top of the order. But yeah, no, I think it's a great fit.
Well, lineups aren't constructed the way they used to be when I was growing up.
No, used to be your best hitters were the number three hitter, your best power hitters, a four hitter. Now you got guys like Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber leading off. You never would have saw that.
So true. And now you mentioned the Brewers, and the Brewers just beat the Dodgers last night. They're embarking on a big four-game series this weekend. But last year we saw the Brewers own the Dodgers during the regular season. And then when the postseason came, the Dodgers took them quickly. Did the Brewers really miss the boat in not getting Scooble? And can they beat the Dodgers in the postseason?
It's possible to beat the Dodgers. I remember last year I covered the Dodgers first round. They swept the Reds quickly, then went over to Milwaukee for Game 5 against the Cubs. And that's their bitter rival. When they won that game, it's almost like they acted like they won the World Series. They went nuts, and then they got swept. I'm not sure they even led an inning. So I don't think they were quite prepared for the Dodgers, and very much outmatched. I would have loved to see them get Scooble. I think a lot of people would have. They made a nice offer, obviously not to the Tigers' liking. They like the Dodgers' offer better. So I don't think they wanted to go completely all in on Scooble, because if it doesn't work out, then they're kind of set back for years. Where the Dodgers can just shrug their shoulders. If it doesn't work out, no big deal. It's like having Kyle Tucker, giving him $60 million a year. Hasn't worked out, but here they're still sitting in first place. And when Diaz has blown 3 saves the last 4, has not been the pitcher they thought, no big deal. Just on and on. They can cover up mistakes, where a team like the Brewers, it would haunt them for years.
It certainly would, but it would have been so beautiful to see a rotation starting with Scooble and The Miz.
It would have been. And that's a powerful 1-2 combination. Kyle Harrison has pitched well, number 3 guy. So, yeah, I think they're a little worried, too, about the offense. And they're still like 4th or 5th in runs scored, but it seems like they have trouble. They don't have that big bopper, and I think that worried them too. Like, okay, even if we get Scooble, it doesn't solve the offensive problems.
So Sometimes I hear the argument that small ball plays really well during the regular season, but to succeed in the postseason, you need home run hitters. And I just thought of that talking about Milwaukee. Is that a belief you share and why?
Well, I know it's tougher to, scrape together consecutive hits in the postseason, so I can see why the big bopper, makes sense. But, I think it's fine as long as you have guys that can string together a long inning, get 4 or 5 base runners on in a row. So, yeah, the big guy is huge for a team, but I still believe it all comes down to pitching and defense. You can't make mistakes in the postseason. If you have those star pitchers, they can do a lot of damage for you, as we've seen over the years.
Well, it's going to be so interesting. We talk so much about the Dodgers three-peat, but the fact is, it was a really close call last year. They almost didn't win.
Yeah, and they should got beat by Toronto. I mean, Blue Jays will kick themselves for the next century. They had that thing. They kind of blew it. They certainly should have won Game 7. Yeah. And then 2 years ago, the Padres they had Dodgers on the ropes, best of 5, up 2-1, Game 4 in San Diego. Dodgers didn't have Freddie Freeman in the lineup. Had to go a bullpen game, and they pitched 2 straight shutouts win their first World Series. In a full season since 1988.
Well, Bob, my assistant is with me, and she's Canadian, so thanks for ripping the scab off that wound.
that was a heartbreaker.
It
Look at the
was.
fan, see the reporters from Toronto to my left. But yeah, it was tough because they thought they had it up 3-2 going back at Toronto. They were sitting pretty. Who knew that Yamamoto would pitch lights out in Game 6, then come relief in Game 7 with 0 days rest. Remind you back Randy Johnson back in the day.
Yeah, or Christy Mathewson way back in the day. I
Right.
mean, it was just unbelievable. So
Yeah.
speaking of sluggers, let's hop over to the Yankees. I got a lot of New York constituency for my show. Did the Yankees operate at the trade deadline like they were trying to win the World Series, or did they operate like they were trying to make the playoffs?
Well, they didn't go all in, and they weren't, in on Scooble at all. So that got way overblown. But they needed some offense. They needed some catching, and they, got a couple of bats, but they didn't get a catcher at all. So they said they tried. I think they would have tried harder if they knew for sure that Aaron Judge is coming back. I was under the impression that they don't know if he's coming back or not. Some people in the organization don't think he's coming back. So if he's not coming back, why go all in when you got no chance to win a World Series if he's not playing? So I think Judge's injury played a big factor.
I was thinking that too. I was thinking that their kind of meh trade deadline was an indication that maybe they thought Aaron Judge wasn't going to make it back.
Yeah, and a lot of people still, not a lot of people, but a few people in the organization still believe he won't. We'll see. I mean, if he comes back, you're talking about probably mid-September. And after missing, 3 months, what kind of player, are we going to see? Probably not going to see the same Aaron Judge.
That's so true. What are you hearing about Bellinger and Stanton?
They should both be back in a couple of weeks, particularly, Bellinger. Stanton hasn't played since, I think it's April 24th. So who knows what he has in the tank? He's been hurt so much. But they need Bellinger back for sure. If he's back by September 1st, gives that offense some life for sure.
Well, how do the Yankees stack up if they do have Bellinger and Stanton? And of course, they got new guy George Lombard and Ben Rice and Ramos and Garcia Jr. They acquired at the trade deadline. But how do they stack up if they don't have Aaron Judge?
Yeah, I mean those moves help, but yeah, you need Aaron Judge, you really do. I mean, just best player in baseball all around, and they if you take Otani out of that equation, so yeah, they're still a very good team, and they got the pitching. They got pitching that to win a series. Where you got obviously the big boys on top. You're a Cole, a Schlittler, the way he's pitching. If Rodon comes back. So you got guys that can knock off anybody in the postseason. So that gives them a fair chance for sure.
Well, that's true. And Max Fried, too. And the pitching has been amazing since the offense has kind of gone on a skid.
Yeah, they need that pitching. And I mean, when Fried was out, that hurt him. I mean, Fried's been worth every penny that they gave him. Same with Garrett Cole, who missed time, and now he's back. So, but yeah, just having that two-headed monster with Cam Schlittler, that's what gives him a chance. Even if Judge doesn't come back, but having Judge makes all the difference in the world.
Well, I agree. It's kind of scary to think about that lineup without Judge in it. And I just think that it creates a ceiling for them. I think they'll make the postseason, but I don't know if they can make a deep run.
No, you just never know. The American League is so down this year, probably as down as I've ever seen it. And Boston, they're out of it, they're in it, they're out of it. So I think the Red Sox are certainly a factor, with that pitching. It's amazing they're doing it too without, their big slugger Roman Anthony, without Garrett Crochet as well. So and still winning. So they're a big factor. I don't think anybody in the West scares them, and I don't think anybody in the Central scares them. So this is a year you want to get in the playoffs, American League, because you can get all the way through with not that rough a competition.
What does Adley Rushman do for the Red Sox?
Well, their catching was so bad. They only hit 4 home runs all year. He brings stability, very good behind the plate, when healthy, a nice offensive player, even though he's been down the last year and a half with Baltimore. So I like the fact that Boston went for it. I mean, they traded away some good prospects to go, to try to win right now. So I respect that. It's been that kind of went against their MO over the past few years.
They were just beyond on fire and I know they lost five in a row recently. I think they won last night, but they were beyond on. They were like 34-5 or something for a stretch in there.
Yeah, the historic stretch, and they've never done that in franchise history. But yeah, they were like 12 games below 500. Then, like in 42 days, they were 11 games above 500. So it's unbelievable the way they played, and it's probably going to get Chad Tracy the Manager of the Year award, replacing Alex Cora. So yeah, I mean, it's a very good, solid team. Caleb Durbin, who looked so bad for the first 2 months, now he looks like Wade Boggs all of a sudden. So yeah, they've had a lot of good storylines.
Yeah, old Yankee guy, right? Caleb Durbin.
Yeah, he came from the Brewers from that Kyle Harrison trade, and so he's done very, very well for them. And he started off so bad it looked like just a horrific trade, and now it's like, okay, this is a third baseman they sign up for.
Yeah, and I think the Yankees sent him to the Brewers, but now I can't remember who the Yankees got for him. But it'll come to me, I'm sure, as soon as I log off.
Yeah, no, it was a trade, and I'm trying to think what it was too. But yeah, it was almost like that trade away young.
Devin Williams? Was it in the Devin Williams trade?
It's possible. I think you may be right in that one, Kelly. Yeah, it could have been the Williams trade. So he was like a farmhand, a young guy, then
Yeah.
then boom, took off with Milwaukee.
What is with the American League Central and West? It's just so bad. And I think that now that we have so much interleague play, it's created a situation where the leagues aren't necessarily a zero sum game. You can have one league that just loses all the time.
Yeah, the National League is so much stronger. We used to always be the American League with the AL East. But yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds you. Remember 1994 with the strike. If the strike hadn't happened, the team leading the AL West was the Texas Rangers. And I want to say there were 12 games below 500 at the time. So both these divisions should have over 500 record. Just mathematically, it's almost impossible not to. But I mean, you keep waiting for Seattle to do something. They've been a massive disappointment. Houston looked dead. Now they're winning the division. Detroit completely gives up by trading Skubal and Mize, and now they have a big weekend series against the White Sox. They may be leading the division after giving up.
It's crazy. And I think that we have these expanded playoffs now. And so you have the opportunity for a team that's playing sub 500 to make the expanded playoffs. And then if you want to take it a step further and apply the just get in and get hot theory, you really could have a sub 500 team in the World Series.
Yeah, that would be amazing if that ever happened. Remember now, Major League Baseball wanted to expand by two more postseason teams, and the union said no. This was back in 2021.
Yep.
So I'm glad we didn't have two more teams. Then we would have had a sub 500 team for sure in the postseason, for the American League.
We haven't talked about the Rays yet, which is a crime because we've been talking about the American League. They are so good. A couple of months ago, many people, maybe even myself, might have said, oh, they'll fall off. Just give them time. They're not falling off. They're for real. And why are they so good?
Yeah, it's like they're the American League version of the Brewers. Just everything they touch turns to gold. They weren't really planning to win this year. They thought they'd win, 88, 90 wins, but not the World Series. They actually made more trades for the future. But they do things right there, and the players say it's such an easy, comfortable place to play, no pressure, and it's amazing what they've done. It's almost like when they're in the playoffs, it's a TV executive's nightmare because just people don't watch Tampa Bay games. And even with the World Series that year, it's oh man, the Rays in the World Series against the Phillies in '08. So, but no, they do a marvelous job. Great manager in Kevin Cash, front office Eric Neander, top of the food chain. So, but no, it's a great story that they're doing this, and they're not going away. It's not like it's a one and done thing. They'll be around for quite a while.
Why is their front office so good? What is so great about the Rays front office? Because they're always making good trades. And Eric Neander, why are they so good?
Yeah, it just seems like they have a great scouting system. People talk about the big market teams. Well, the Rays have as many scouts as anybody else. They got great analytic staff too. So the combination together, and they know their players well. They know exactly what they want. But when they make trades, they deal them at the right time, and they find guys that people aren't high on that they have better evaluations. So just from top to bottom, just a great organization.
Do you think they'll be able to turn around Freddie Peralta?
And we'll see. I mean, he pitched much better as a second start for sure. It's tough. Your first one, you're going to Coors Field and everything else. But yeah, he should be. I think he'll be fine. He's too good of a pitcher, too good of a track record. Just to be as mediocre as he was with the Mets.
Yeah, it certainly was a surprise because although he had never gone long, even with the Brewers, so we didn't expect that, but we did expect him to be good for his 5 innings, and he wasn't.
No, not at all. And they, gave up 3, 4 runs, and certainly what they gave up to get him was disastrous compared to what they got back in return. So it was a nightmare of a trade. And same thing, Milwaukee lets people go like the Rays at the right time. I mean, trade him at peak value, and look what he did. They let Willie Adames walk away as a free agent. He's struggling in San Francisco. But they do that all the time, too. Trade away Corbin Burns. He went to Baltimore 1 year, and now he's missed the last year and a half with the Tommy John surgery. So, yeah, they know their people well, and they make the right trades at the right time.
The Brewers always seem to get it done, and a lot of that, I think, is thanks to Pat Murphy, who's a friend of this show. How does he manage to stay in it every year, Bob?
Yeah, we just having a conversation with Dave Roberts a couple weeks ago, and he says he kind of gets upset because he always gets overlooked. Because to be honest, Pat Murphy deserved to win the Manager of the Year last 2 years. I said, how about this year? He goes, might be Murphy again. But he runs it almost like a college program in the sense where he makes guys responsible for all their actions and play the game hard, play it right. He's only the one manager in the game who can call out players. He'll take players out in the middle of the games. A guy can have a 2-0 count, takes the pitcher out. So they play hard. They play, they play the game right with respect under Murphy. He's done a magnificent job there. He's been the perfect guy for that organization. They just keep getting better. I mean, they won 97 games last year. They're on pace to do the same thing this year and finish with the best record in baseball.
And never won a World Series. Maybe it'll be their year.
Be easier if they had Scooble, but yeah, could be the year. Yeah, they shoot, they haven't been back to a World Series since 1982. It's been a long time.
Bob, you mentioned the Mets a little bit ago. The Mets went from looking like a team that many people thought could be in the postseason, win a division, win maybe more than that, to one of the major sellers at the deadline. What happened inside that organization?
Yeah, just a complete disaster. When people complain about the Dodgers, the Mets had a higher opening day payroll this year than the Dodgers. Last 5 years, the Mets have spent more money than the Dodgers. Look at the two organizations. But yeah, they took a gamble on a few things that backfired. I mean, they let Edwin Diaz go, but Diaz hasn't done much at all with the Dodgers, so maybe that was the right decision. Pete Alonso is doing exactly what he did with the Mets when they got the replacement from Seattle. That's been a disaster. They wasted $20 million by getting Luis Robert Jr. That's been a disaster. So it'll be interesting what they do in the offseason. I don't think, I think they'll make a run at Scooble. Let's see if he really wants to go there. I'd be fascinated to see if they trade Francisco Lindor. They need his approval, but they need to shake that thing up even more and, get the way they want, because they've certainly gone backwards.
Do you think trading Lindor is a real option, or it's just kind of something that people are ginning up as a far-fetched possibility?
I think it's an option. I mean, everybody's kind of known about, the relationship between him and Juan Soto in the past. They say it's gotten better. Juan Soto's not going anywhere. And Lindor has not had a good season, but I'm not sure what you're going to get if you trade Lindor, because he's got so much money coming his way too. He's only halfway through that, 10-year, $341 million contract. So if you trade him, all you're doing is just taking money off the books. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they're still some years away from being back to that team where they thought they would be a couple of years ago.
Is this on Stearns or on Mendoza?
Probably Stearns. I'm not sure anybody was going to win with that team. They played a little bit better under Andy Green, but not much. So I don't think it's Mendoza's fault at all. He just, the hand that he was dealt. And Stearns was trying to kind of run it in the Milwaukee Brewer way, kind of sustain success. But you got to get to success first if you can keep it going. And they haven't done that. So I think they'll have a fascinating winter to see what direction they go.
Why was Stearns so successful in Milwaukee, but he's come up empty-handed so far in New York?
Yeah, just they just did things right there. He came from the Houston Astros organization, and where they won. Went to Milwaukee, kind of did the same thing, got the right players, moved players at the right time, and traditional small market team. And I think you want to operate the same way in New York, and that's where they got paid, about $14 million a year, which is the second highest salary by anybody for a baseball executive. And it just backfired. All the moves he made have blown up in his face. So we'll see what happens. So he's not afraid of fan appeal for sure. By dumping Alonso and Diaz and things like that. So he's been criticized to the high heavens, but it's not. It hasn't bothered him.
Well, I think that if he had effectively replaced those players, there would have been a lot less heat on him. But he let fan favorites go and didn't effectively replace them. And the team has just, like you said, been a disaster. So, yeah, the fans are pretty angry.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, they went nuts. Remember when Steve Cohen bought the team, promised, hey, we'll win a World Series in the first 5 years, hopefully a couple. Haven't come close. And now they're going the other direction. And I think when Cohen even said this summer, like, I'm a little afraid of our farm system. What's going to be what's going to happen next year? So it's not like they're right on the edge of building a championship contender. It's going to take them a couple of years.
Where do you start with that?
He starts with pitching, and some of those young pitchers hasn't stepped up. So you got to go that route. That's what'll be interesting if they invest that kind of money in a Scooble. I have my doubts, but someone's got to give the Dodgers a little competition for Scooble. but it all starts with the pitching, then get that offense going. Just, guys have not performed well at all. They were hoping more for, guys like Marcus Simeon and Mark Vientos, and it hasn't happened.
That's for sure. Just, Bob, in the few minutes before we go, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about the collective bargaining negotiations. How concerned are you about the 2027 season?
I'm not as concerned as a lot of people are. I'd be shocked if we don't have a season. I think to get back playing in May, I do think it's going to be a prolonged lockout where it's going to take at least one missed paycheck by the players. And players get paid every 2 weeks. So opening day is, I think, like March 25th. 2 weeks after that is the first paycheck. So if they miss a paycheck, then we'll see who blinks first. The owners not getting their TV money or realizing the players aren't budging, or if the players say, wait a minute now, we don't want to miss a second paycheck. So I think it's going to take one just to get people's attention.
That's a really interesting theory about the one missed paycheck. I think it's fascinating that the owners are moving in on the salary cap now because we have had 32 years of relative labor peace. In 1994, the owners pushed hard for a salary cap. Players went on strike. We all know what happened. We lost the World Series, part of the 1995 season. And then things kind of peacefully coexisted for 32 years. Why are the owners going in for the kill again now?
I think they think this is their time. If it doesn't happen now, maybe they'll never do it. And I think they think that, okay, last time in 2021, the executive committee voted, and let's keep negotiating. We're not going back to the field. Then the rank and file took over, voted 26-4, say, hey, we're playing. This time they're trying to get the young guys' attention. They're going to raise that minimum up to about 1.25. Arbitration will be more for younger players. They'll reduce free agency if you're 30 years old from 6 years to 5. Trying to get their attention that way. And the owners, at least for paper-wise, they insist they're not making the killing that people think. Several owners have said, with the TV contracts going belly up like they have, that's really cut into our losses. I mean, there's teams. I think the White Sox went from $100 million TV contract to $25 million TV contract. The Phillies have lost money the last couple of years. The Mets have lost a killing. The Padres are losing money. So, but this on paper, obviously the Padres just sold for 3.9, which of course the players in union will point out, like, well, if you sell your team, you're still going to make your money back. So, but I think the owners think that if they're going to ever get a salary cap done, this is their time to do it.
How do you think the strength of the union now compares to the strength of the union in 1994?
But I think the union is probably stronger back in because a lot of those players have been through it. Those older players in '94, they'd already been through 3 or 4 strikes. These guys have never been through anything like that. We had a 99-day lockout in 2021, but still be able to get a short spring in all the 162 games, the regular season. So I think just the fact that these guys are younger, have not been through this thing. So you question, like, okay, how much does it mean to them for the next generation of players? So I would think 94 would be a stronger thing just because those guys are more veterans. And some of those players have been through like 4 or 5, strikes or lockouts.
That's a really interesting point. I had Rick Cerrone on the show last week, and he had been through both, and so he was talking about that and made that point. And it was his feeling that the union was incredibly strong in those days. And he credited leadership very much of the union back in 94.
Yeah, and now you have the social media too, and I think guys are more afraid to speak out. Even back then, Tom Glavine took a lot of heat. I think David Cohn did too. And now with all the social media stuff, guys are a little more reluctant to speak out and get criticized. So we'll see what happens if this lockout, how long it goes, and if guys are more timid to speak out, or they'll say, hey, let's go ahead. I'm going to let it rip here. So I think guys may be more timid. You have a lot of stuff on the line, endorsement deals, fan appeal, social media. which you didn't have that as much back then.
Fascinating perspective. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your time today, Bob. You have been incredibly generous. And now we have the most important question of all.
Okay.
We end every show here at the Three Inning Fan with my other great love in life, and that is food. And we like to talk about what we like to eat while we're watching the ball game. If you're at the stadium, if you have a favorite vendor, or if you're at home on the couch when nobody's bothering you and you get to watch a game in peace and quiet. But Bob Nightengale, what is good to eat while watching the ball game?
You can never go wrong with pizza, right? Everybody likes pizza. And, if I'm at home, nothing better than having some chips and guacamole. So tortilla chips and guacamole, some hot sauce, then good to go.
And what kind of toppings do you get on your pizza?
I go just about everything now, pepperoni, sausage, mushroom, onion. So yeah, like all. And usually go. I like thin crust better than the deep dish. And there's a famous place not too far from where I live that's been rated like #1 in the country. I don't think it's the best, but living in the Phoenix area, there's so many pizza places where people go crazy over the pizza.
I think my brother ate at that place. He's a pizza aficionado, so I'm going to ask you about that after we wrap. But is there an adult beverage that you prefer to have with your pizza or your chips and guac?
I'm more margaritas. I like a good margarita, not sweet, just a good down home margarita. Lots of ice, and maybe mix an occasional beer or two. But I'm more of a margarita fan.
Ah, you're speaking my language, Bob. Thank you so much for your time today. You have been an amazing guest.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kelley.
So, everyone, we so much appreciate the insider eyes view of Bob Nightengale. And thank you guys for watching me this week, and I'll see you next week.